Hello everyone, welcome to today's class, and our title today is Bad Neighbor. Let's move on to language focus. 1번. However, when your neighbor kidnaps you, casts a spell on you, and keeps you in a hole in the ground for 26 years, you might be forgiven not loving them too much. So, as you can see, I have highlighted might be forgiven for doing something. In this situation, not loving them. So, use might be forgiven for doing something to express that something seems reasonably justified. It usually is used in reference to thoughts or your feelings. So it might be forgiven for doing something, 무언가가 합리적이고 정당당연하다고 느낄 때 쓰는 표현이다. 주로 생각, 감정에 관해 쓰인다. So, if we look at the first example. If you worked 60 hours this week, you might be forgiven for not wanting to do much over the weekend. So, 이번 주에 60시간을 일했다면 주말에 아무것도 하고 싶지 않은 것은 당연한 일이다. Yes, I relate to this a lot. But my wife relates to it even more because she works more than 60 hours. So much for the government trying to implement the 50-something hour work week. Anyway, that's enough about my personal life. Jack often says harsh things, and you might be forgiven for thinking he's a mean guy, but he's actually very kind once you get to know him. So, 잭은 종종 거짓말을 해서 못된 사람이라고 충분히 생각할 수 있지만 알고 보면 굉장히 친절한 사람이다. So, yeah, there are some people out there who are very harsh with their words, meaning very, they can sound very mean, they can sound very strict or very forward, but maybe it's just their personality, and once you get to know them more, you'll realize why they are like that, and they are actually quite nice. I used to be like that, to be honest with you. I used to be very harsh with my words, but to be honest with you, I believe that I'm a nice person. Okay, 2번. Little did his family know that Omar was at a house just 200 meters away being held captive by an older man. So, little did his family know. So, I highlighted little does one know. So, use little does one know to express that somebody is totally unaware of something. Let's look at let me explain it to you first. 누군가가 무엇에 대해 전혀 알고 있지 않을 때 쓰는 표현. So, we asked Mehmet to come over and help us with some work on Saturday afternoon. But little does he know that we are planning a surprise birthday party for him. So that's very nice of them. Have you ever had a surprise birthday party? I haven't. 우리는 메멧에게 토요일에 오후에 일 좀 도와달라고 부탁했지만 사실 깜짝 파티를 준비하고 있는 걸 전혀 알아채지 못하고 있다. Very nice friends. Okay, next one. I knew we would be busy, but little did I know that our team would end up working all night. 바쁠 줄 알았지만 우리 팀이 밤새 일하게 될 줄은 몰랐습니다. Alright, now let's move on to the language focus quiz. 1번. You might be forgiven for getting angry if... So let's scroll back up here. You might be forgiven. Use you might be forgiven for doing something to express that something seems reasonable and justified. It is usually used in the reference of thoughts and feelings. So remember, 무언가가 합리적이고 당연하다고 느낄 때 쓴 표현이다. 주로 생각, 감정에 관해 수인다. Alright. So, you might be forgiven that. You might be forgiven for getting angry if, let's say, someone insulted your family. So, 누군가 너의 가족을 모욕한다면 화가 나는 건 당연한 일이다. Or people might be forgiven for not being believing that, I don't know, Greg isn't a millionaire. 사람들이 그렉이 억만장자가 아니라고 믿는 건 당연할 수도 있다. Alright. Maybe because Greg doesn't show off his millions and millions and millions of dollars. Maybe that's the reason why. Okay, 3번. Little did I know that would become my favorite. Little did I know. We use little does one know to express that somebody is totally unaware of something. So remember, 누군가가 무엇에 대해 전혀 알고 있지 않을 때 쓰는 표현. So little did I know that, let's just say, BTS would become my favorite K-pop band. Okay. 제가 가장 좋아하는 K-pop 밴드가 BTS가 될 줄은 몰랐습니다. And little do most people know that, I know how to juggle, which is not true. So, 많은 사람들이 제가 저글링을 할 줄 아는 것을 모릅니다. Alright, now let's look at the further discussion. 1번. Have you ever heard of some other stories, family members fighting because of inheritance? What happened? 주변에 유산 문제로 가족끼리 싸운 이야기를 들어본 적이 있나요? 어떤 일이 있었나요? The one that comes to mind is this famous comedian in Korea. I don't know his name, I forgot his name, but supposedly he had a legal dispute between family. I don't know if it was about inheritance though, but I know it was about money, whether it be inheritance or not. But I think this is not an unusual situation, especially if you have a family who isn't close with the brothers and sisters. When their parents die, there's obviously this tension that's already built up between the brothers and sisters of who gets what inheritance, who gets how much inheritance. You know, I don't think this is an unnatural situation at all. But I haven't heard of any personal stories relating to this. Luckily, for my families at least, everyone gets along very well, and there was never an inheritance sort of problem. So, no, personally not me. 2번. If you knew that a family member of yours had committed a serious crime, would you snitch? Why or why not? 가족 중 한 명이 심각한 범죄를 저지를 것을 알았다면 밀고 하겠습니까? 이유는? I guess that just depends on which family member we're talking about. It would have to be on how serious the crime was, and it would actually have to depend on who the family member was. And then, I was joking, but to be honest with you, if it was my wife, I would never snitch on my wife. If it was my daughter, I would never snitch on my daughter. I would probably try and convince them that what they did should be reported to the police, but I wouldn't be the one to do that. And I'd go to jail for my family, for sure. My mother as well is another person who I wouldn't snitch on. But if it was like cousins, and no offense to my cousins or anything, but they're not going to watch this. Yeah, just depends on what they did. Yeah, a serious crime I imagine would be like killing somebody or like stealing a lot of money, etc., etc. But if it was like my cousins, for example, I'd either will never talk to them again or I'd snitch. I'm just that kind of person. Anyway, that wraps it up for today's class, and I'll see you on the next class.
Cast a spell.
Cast a spell.
Authoritarian.
Authoritarian.
Islamist.
Islamist.
Snitch.
Snitch.
Pin.
Pen.
Add up.
Add up.